it's the people throughout an organization that makes it successful. And HR can't possibly touch every single individual, but the managers really do. And the managers make that really important impact.
Welcome to the HR Like a Boss video series. If it resonates with you, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or sharing with a friend. In the description below, you will find social media links and where to listen to the complete podcast interview. I've embarked on a journey to get to know amazingly awesome HR and business professionals. These conversations create the foundation for my book on what it takes to do HR like a boss. And on today's episode, I am joined by Amy Powers. Amy is a friend and a client and currently the VP of Human Resources at Chart Industries. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, you got it. So for those that don't know you, maybe if you want to share a little bit about yourself and your career and what you've been working on lately.
Sure. I am the Vice President of Human Resources for the Americas region for Chart Industries. And, if I kind of go back and think through my career, started in HR as a generalist at small organizations, nonprofit organizations. And as time went on, just had an opportunity to get exposed to a lot of different things. And I would say, for all of you, sometimes HR can be frustrating, and times you question your sanity of why you're in the role. But there's lots of rewards to it, lots of accomplishments. And for me, that the variety of interactions that you have with people and the impact that you have on the business is its own reward.
So I want to start off first and foremost. I'd like to kind of get the conversation going at a very high level. And I know you've had a variety of roles and a number of experiences in human resources. So how would you describe the purpose of human resources?
So I would really look at it as making sure you are partnering with the business and what the business goals are to make sure you have the right people in the right seats. And for me, that's really dedicated people plans. So this would be things like, what are the roles that you need, not only now, but for the future, and what is that changing to? And of course, with that, you want to make sure it's a very engaging experience for employees. So for me, engagement is a lot of different things. It is partially compensation and benefits. It is absolutely the job itself and the tasks and responsibilities for each individual. And ultimately, I feel very strongly about the relationship between the employee and their manager, and making sure that is constantly growing, challenging, and making sure that everybody is aware and communicating of what the business goals are and how each individual impacts those goals.
I'm curious, in talking with ways of like connecting the people to your business, the manager to that employee level relationship. Also, you mentioned something called dedicated people plans, which maybe we can get a little bit more into that in a second. But what are some of the challenges that you faced in your career in being able to get the business to incorporate HR into those areas, like employee and manager relationships, or those dedicated employee plans, or connecting the business to the people?
Sometimes the HR team itself becomes so rule focused that you rely on a policy, you rely on something to make a decision, rather than necessarily thinking through what's the true purpose of that policy, what's the situation at hand, and do you really need to be so rules focused that you're not really partnering properly with managers or even employees. So I think that's definitely one item from just an HR reputation. Another item would be, much of any function will have certain, sort of core pieces that you need to do and you need to do well. So a lot of that is, payroll, it's compensation, it's the benefits, it's sort of that kind of core functional processes that need to operate really well. So sometimes when that doesn't work well, you're viewed as you can't do some of these basic things well. How can you add value in other processes that are even trickier? And then I would say the third item is making sure managers view employees and talent as everyone's responsibility. It's not solely HR's focus. It is everyone's responsibility, because it's the people throughout an organization that makes it successful. And HR can't possibly touch every single individual, but the managers really do, and the managers make that really important impact.
Yeah, that's a key factor that we'll get into in the book, and some of the additional insight is that HR's responsibility is to connect the people with the business, and then you have these managerial responsibilities and executive leadership, and how can HR empower them to do their jobs as effectively as possible and not necessarily take on the burden of every single employee related development plan. It's really up to the manager when done right and effectively, and HR is there to sprinkle their suggestions, ideas, kind of structure around that to ensure
Right.
that it takes place.
Exactly. And even
So-
when you look at like turnover information in studies, people leave an organization because of that relationship with the manager. So it's really key to me. Managers are that foundation of the success of the company.
So maybe we can start there and kind of continue on that barrier, suggestions you might have, and maybe we'll focus in on that manager to employee relationship. Is there anything that you can speak to as far as ways to remove that barrier? Maybe you've had a manager that doesn't get like, hey, I know this is a person on my team, it's HR's responsibility to develop them, or I have an issue and it's HR's responsibility to deal with it. Is there suggestions you might have, or things that you've experienced over time that maybe has helped you change that manager's mindset that this is my responsibility to make sure that my employee's happy and that we're developing them?
Quite honestly, every situation is going to be a little bit different. What I really find is having that conversation with the manager of, what's happening in the group, what's happening with the employee, what are the goals of the function itself and the key items that it's delivering for the business success, and where each employee fits in. So sometimes just having a little bit of that conversation and understanding what that department's and that manager's goals are allows you to have a conversation and how you can translate that to each individual employee. Turning it into a much more objective conversation. Managers often find it very difficult when you may have someone who's not performing, and you've got to have a confrontation. No matter how small it might be, giving someone bad news is going to be viewed a confrontation. So really doing a lot of that coaching on how do you make it objective? How do you keep it focused on those results rather than anything more emotionally related?
Now you mentioned these dedicated people plans. Maybe that was just a word you used kind of 3 in a row, but maybe I felt like there was some intention around that. Do you mind sharing what that means?
We go through a very, very dedicated talent review on an annual basis, but some people will look at it as a succession plan, but we take it a little bit deeper from there. So we'll to develop our people plans, we do a couple of different things. The first is we will have small conversations with each of our departments on not only the goals of the department, the goals of the business, but we'll do a review of each person and where they might fall in a 9 box, where their long-term career goals may be, where they may have some development opportunities. And from there, we'll really work through what are the specific items, either for the department or the individual, that we need to focus on.
Yeah, I totally get that. You're aligning the purpose and values of the company, and then setting those goals for what you're trying to achieve, and then working it down to the departments and individual level so they get how they fit into that puzzle piece. I'm just curious, how long has it taken you to put together? Sounds like you're living and breathing that pretty consistently. How long has it taken you to put that together at your organization to get it to where it is today?
It's really been a good 3 years. It's not something that comes easy. from a people standpoint, it's a significant shift on how managers are thinking about people.
And I'm just curious as to what would be your definition of someone doing HR like a boss?
I think the number one thing is make sure that you are business minded. Make sure you understand your organization's purpose, and how it either makes profit or delivers a service to a community. But when you understand what that business is, align every single one of your practices to what that business success looks like. In every single one of your processes, make sure they're adding value. And the bottom line is, for me, you got to find your way to yes. As a business, you have to find your way to yes for your customers and deliver for them. It's the same thing in HR. Find your way to yes to make sure that you can deliver for the employee and that employee experience, for the manager and how they might manage a situation or have even, very difficult situations pop up. But even that yes, with the leadership team and coming up with the company's strategic plans, find the way to make things happen, and think outside the box of non-traditional HR things, and just consider it and try it. But really, it's being that partner that really makes a big difference, and don't ever lose sight of the fact that you're dealing with people, and having compassion and fairness in all of those interactions and those decisions really creates a better relationship, a better reputation. And honestly, you can feel good about the decisions you're making rather than, feeling poorly about a situation where you could have handled it differently.
Amy, I really appreciate you being on the show today and sharing your insights. I'm going to start with a quick recap. And I think the point you just made about trying to find a way to yes is paramount for HR. Instead of getting in the way with rules, policies, and compliance, let's find a way that we can help the business say yes to our clients, to our managers, and to our employees. You also talked about partnering with the business and having dedicated employee plans that I think you referenced them as dedicated people plans. You suggested that we keep them simple and at the same time giving the manager the responsibility of their talent, ensuring that they know it's everyone's responsibility, just not human resources. So thank you for those insights, and I appreciate everyone checking out today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend. And until next time, let's continue to aspire to doing amazingly awesome HR.